Welcome to valor and violence. The smell hits first. Burnt wood, burnt flesh, burnt gunpowder mixing with salt water and something else. Something sweetly rotten that makes experienced sailors turn away. October 8th, 1571, 5 hours past noon. The Gulf of Patras, a Venetian galley, moves slowly through the debris field. The oarsmen pull carefully, avoiding what floats. Splintered masts, shattered oars, bodies, so many bodies. Some wear the red and gold of Spain. Most wear green, Ottoman green. The water between Lepanto and the Curzilari Islands has turned from blue to rust brown, thick with what 4 hours of naval warfare produces. Captain Marco Querini stands at the bow. He's counting. Not bodies, there are too many for that. He's counting ships, or what remains of ships. The burnt ribs of galleys jutting from the water like the skeletons of sea monsters. 30 visible wrecks within his sightline alone. 30 Ottoman galleys that this morning carried guns and men and the confidence of an empire that hadn't lost a major naval battle in half a century. How? Querini asks, nobody in particular. How does this happen? His lieutenant, a young man named Paolo Contarini, who yesterday saw his first naval battle, doesn't answer. He's staring at something floating 20 yards to starboard. A section of ship's timber, painted green and gold. Ornate. Too ornate for a common galley. Chained to it are 3 men. We're 3 men. The timber is from a flagship. The chains mean these were slaves. Galley slaves who died still shackled to the bench they rode. But that's not what makes Contarini stare. It's what's carved into the timber above the chains. Arabic script. He can't read it, but he recognizes the style. Official. Imperial. This piece of wreckage came from something important. Sir, Contarini says quietly, I think that's from the Sultana. The Sultana. Admiral Ali Pasha's flagship, the pride of the Ottoman fleet. 250 feet of fighting power, carrying the personal banner of Sultan Selim II. This morning it led 300 Ottoman vessels into battle against the combined Christian fleet. It was the largest naval engagement in the Mediterranean since Roman times. Historians would later call it the Battle of Lepanto, the last great clash of galley warfare, the moment when Christian Europe stopped the Ottoman advance at sea. But Querini isn't thinking about history, he's thinking about mathematics, the brutal arithmetic of what happened here. The Ottoman fleet numbered between 230 and 280 vessels, depending on which report you trust. The Holy League, Spain, Venice, Papal States, Genoa, brought approximately 210. On paper, the Ottomans had the advantage. More ships, more experienced crews, more victories in their collective memory. On paper, the Ottomans should have won. Instead, Querini's galley has been searching for survivors for an hour. They've found 16. All Ottoman, all wounded, all asking the same question in Turkish, Arabic, Greek. What happened? What happened is that the Ottoman fleet lost approximately 190 ships in 4 hours. Captured or destroyed. What happened is that somewhere between 20 and 30,000 Ottoman sailors and soldiers died this afternoon. The Christian fleet lost 17 vessels, maybe 8,000 men. In terms of military catastrophe, this ranks with Cannae, with Teutoburg Forest, with those moments when an army that shouldn't lose does lose, completely and catastrophically. Querini has been a naval officer for 23 years. He fought at Preveza, at Jerba. He knows Ottoman tactics, Ottoman captains, Ottoman supremacy. He remembers 1558, when a Christian fleet of 54 galleys met an Ottoman fleet of half that size and fled. He remembers the jokes afterwards about Christian cowardice, about Ottoman invincibility. He's not laughing now. Nobody's laughing. Because what floats in the Gulf of Patras isn't just wreckage. It's proof of something impossible made real. An entire military tradition, centuries old, broken in an autumn afternoon. Sir, Contarini again, pointing, not at debris this time, at something moving. A galley, Ottoman colors, but barely, limping north, trailing smoke. 3 of its 4 masts, gone. Oars moving irregularly, the rhythm of a crew decimated and desperate. It's trying to reach Lepanto harbor, trying to find safety in the same port it left this morning, expecting victory. Querini watches it struggle. He doesn't give chase. There's no point. That ship is already dead. It might make harbor, it might not. Either way, it's finished, like the rest of the Ottoman fleet, like Ottoman naval dominance in the Mediterranean. But here's what bothers Querini. What keeps him standing at the bow as the sun drops toward the western horizon and the water around him slowly transitions from rust to black. It's not the how. The how is actually simple once you break it down. Technology, tactics, leadership, luck. The how is explicable. It's the why. Why did Ali Pasha, brilliant naval commander, veteran of a dozen campaigns, make the decisions he made? Why did the Ottoman captains, skilled and experienced, fail to adapt when their formation broke? Why did an empire with unlimited resources, infinite confidence, and every reason to believe in its own supremacy sail into a trap they should have seen coming? 4 hours ago, the Ottoman fleet was invincible. 4 hours ago, the Mediterranean belonged to the Sultan. 4 hours ago, Christian Europe was losing a religious war at sea. Then something changed. In the space between 1 o'clock and 5 o'clock on October 7th, 1571, the mathematics of Mediterranean power flipped. Not gradually, not over years, in 4 hours. Querini turns to his crew. "Mark this position," he says. "Historians will want to know exactly where the Sultana died. But what he's really thinking is, they'll want to know why. Why an empire drowned here. Why invincibility died here. Why 4 hours erased 50 years of Ottoman naval supremacy. To understand that, you have to rewind to 1 o'clock, to the moment when two fleets first saw each other across blue water, to the decisions made in the seconds and minutes before the killing started, to the moment when Ali Pasha looked at the Christian formation and thought he understood what he was seeing. He was wrong. 1 o'clock. 4 hours earlier. Don Juan of Austria is 24 years old. Illegitimate son of Holy Roman Emperor Charles V. Half-brother to King Philip of Spain. Supreme commander of the Holy League fleet by political necessity rather than naval experience. He stands on the deck of the Real, his flagship, and watches the Ottoman fleet emerge from the morning haze like a crescent moon made of wood and canvas. His hands are shaking. Nobody can see it. He's gripping the rail too tightly for that. But they're shaking. 210 Christian galleys against, he counts quickly, at least 270 Ottoman vessels. The math is bad. The math has always been bad. When the Holy League formed 6 months ago, everyone knew the numbers favored the Turks. More ships, more men. More gunpowder. More everything except one thing: desperation. "They're not turning back," says Luis de Requesens, his second in command. Older, Spanish, veteran of a dozen campaigns. His voice is steady, but his jaw is tight. Ali Pasha wants this fight. Don Juan wants to ask, "Do we?" But he can't. Not now. Not with 60,000 Christian sailors and soldiers watching him. Not with the fate of the Mediterranean hanging on whatever happens in the next few hours. So instead he says, "Good. So do we." He's lying. He's terrified. Last night he couldn't sleep. He kept thinking about Preveza, about Jerba, about every time Christian fleets met Ottoman fleets and lost, about the reputation of Ali Pasha, about the fact that he, Don Juan, has never commanded a naval battle in his life. But he does have something Ali Pasha doesn't expect. 6 galleasses. They're moving into position now. Massive. Slow. Floating fortresses with 30 heavy guns each. Too big to maneuver like normal galleys. Too powerful to ignore. Don Juan's gamble. His innovation. His answer to Ottoman numbers. If they work. 3 miles east, Admiral Ali Pasha stands on the Sultana and watches the Christian fleet form its line. He's 47, governor of Egypt, commander of the Ottoman Mediterranean fleet, veteran of campaigns from Algeria to Cyprus. He's seen Christian fleets before. He knows their tactics, their weaknesses, their tendency to panic when outnumbered. Today, they're outnumbered by at least 60 vessels, maybe more. Today, they should panic, "They're putting something forward," says Pertev Pasha, commanding the Sultana's marines. He's pointing at the 6 galleasses pushing ahead of the Christian line. "What are those?" Ali Pasha squints. He's seen Venetian galleasses before. Merchant ships converted for war. Too slow for fleet actions. Useful for siege support. Nothing more. Cargo haulers with cannons, he says. They're trying to intimidate us. But something nags at them. The Christian formation is wrong. Normally they extend their line, trying to match Ottoman width, trying to prevent the crescent formation from enveloping their flanks. Today they're compressed, tight, overlapping, as if they're not worried about being outflanked. As if they have a different plan. Maintain the crescent, Ali Pasha orders. Strong center. Sweep the wings. Standard tactics. Standard tactics that have worked for 50 years. Why change them now? Below deck on the reel, a man named Miguel de Cervantes checks his arquebus for the 3rd time. 24 years old. Spanish soldier. Idealist. Dreamer. He'll survive today's battle, but lose the use of his left hand. Years later, he'll write about it. About the fear and the noise and the moment when you realize that history is about to happen and you're standing in the middle of it. Right now, he's just trying not to vomit. The galley rocks. The drum beat starts. The rowing rhythm. The sound that means battle is coming. Around him, 250 soldiers prepare. Checking weapons, tightening armor, praying. Some out loud, most silently. Spanish, Italian, German, even some English volunteers. The full weight of Catholic Europe crammed into wooden ships. Above, he can hear officers shouting, preparation orders, battle stations, the sound of a fleet transforming from sailing formation to fighting formation. He thinks about the men on the Ottoman galleys doing the same thing right now, preparing, praying to a different god, believing in a different cause, convinced they'll win just as strongly as Cervantes is convinced the Christians will. Somebody has to be wrong. On the left flank of the Ottoman line, a galley captain named Mehmed studies the Christian right wing. He's responsible for 34 vessels. His job is simple: sweep wide, get behind the Christian line, attack from the rear, force them to break formation. Standard crescent tactics. But those 6 strange ships worry him. They're slow, that's obvious, but they're big, and they're bristling with guns. More guns than he's ever seen on floating vessels. Heavy guns. The kind that punch holes in hulls from distance. "Should we wait for the center to engage first?" his lieutenant asks. Mehmed shakes his head. Ali Pasha wants simultaneous pressure, center and wings together. We go when he goes. But he's calculating. His galleys are fast, maneuverable, built for ramming and boarding. The Ottoman way of naval warfare for centuries. Get close, get alongside, let the Marines do their work. Janissaries trained for ship-to-ship combat, the finest soldiers in the world at close quarters. The Christian ships have more guns, but guns are useless in a boarding action, and boarding is where Ottomans excel. He's confident. He should be. The math favors him. The experience favors him. History favors him. In the center of the Christian line, Venetian captain Sebastiano Venier is 65 years old. Too old for this. But Venice needs every experienced commander it can field. He's seen Ottoman galleys before, fought them before, lost to them before. Today feels different. It's the galleasses. He suggested them, pushed for them, argued that firepower could replace maneuverability if deployed correctly. Don Juan listened. Young, inexperienced, but willing to try something new. The Ottomans aren't trying anything new. Venier can see it in their formation, the same crescent they've used since Preveza, since Jerba, since every victory that gave them control of the Mediterranean. Victory makes you conservative, makes you believe the old ways work because they've always worked. Defeat makes you innovative, makes you willing to gamble on galleasses and concentrated firepower and tactics nobody's tried before. Venier watches the Ottoman line approach, watches Ali Pasha's flagship in the center, Sultana, beautiful ship, ornate, powerful, symbol of Ottoman supremacy. In 4 hours, it will be at the bottom of the Gulf of Patras. But Ali Pasha doesn't know that yet. The distance closes. 2,000 yards. 1,500, 1,000. The drum beats sync, Ottoman drums and Christian drums, creating a rhythm that sounds almost unified, almost peaceful. The sound of two fleets rowing toward each other at combat speed. The wind dies. The sea flattens. Perfect conditions for galley warfare. 500 yards. Don Juan raises his hand. Every Christian captain watches, waiting for the signal. Ali Pasha does the same on the Sultana. Every Ottoman captain watches. The moment hangs. The moment before everything changes. Before mathematics becomes reality. Before theory becomes blood. Don Juan drops his hand. The galleass is fire. The sound is wrong. That's what Ali Pasha thinks first. Not fear, not shock, just confusion. Because naval battles don't sound like this. Naval battles sound like drums and shouting and the crack of wood against wood when galleys ram. Sometimes the pop of arquebuses. Sometimes the clash of swords during boarding. They don't sound like continuous thunder. The 6 galleasses are firing everything. 30 guns per ship. 180 heavy cannon total. Not aimed carefully. Not precise shots. Just overwhelming volume. 50-pound balls tearing through Ottoman formations at 300 yards. Distance where Ottoman galleys can't respond. Distance where arrows are useless and boarding is impossible. The first Ottoman galley to die is called the Crescent of Algiers. 60 oars. 200 men. Veteran crew. It takes 3 direct hits in 30 seconds. The mainmast snaps, crashes down across the rowing benches. 20 oarsmen die instantly, crushed under Genoese pine. Then a ball punches through the hull below the waterline. The galley doesn't sink dramatically. It settles, like an old man sitting down. Water pours into the lower deck where the slaves row. They're chained. They can't escape. The galley is gone in 4 minutes. Ali Pasha watches 7 more Ottoman vessels suffer the same fate in the next 10 minutes. Not disabled, not damaged, destroyed. The galleasses aren't trying to capture ships. They're trying to kill them. And they're succeeding. Return fire, someone screams. Maybe Pertev Pasha. Maybe someone else. It doesn't matter. The Ottoman galleys do have some cannon. Light pieces. Designed for anti-personnel work. They fire back. The balls bounce off the galleass hulls. Or punch through, but don't penetrate deep enough to matter. The galleasses are too big, too heavily built. Ottoman firepower is designed for different warfare. For the traditional ways are dying. Mehmed, on the left flank, makes a decision. He can't approach the center where those floating fortresses dominate. So, he does what Ottoman doctrine teaches. He sweeps wide, goes around. His 34 galleys arc north, trying to get past the Christian right wing, trying to find open water where speed and maneuverability matter more than firepower. But the Christian right wing commander is a Genoese admiral named Gianandrea Doria, nephew of the legendary Andrea Doria. He sees Mehmed's maneuver, and instead of holding position like Ottoman tactics expect, he moves too, extends his line, matches Mehmed's arc, refuses to let the Ottomans get behind him. This isn't how it's supposed to work. The Christians are supposed to hold static positions. The Ottomans are supposed to outmaneuver them. That's the pattern. That's 50 years of naval warfare in the Mediterranean. Mehmed realizes something terrifying. The Christians have studied Ottoman tactics. They know what's coming. They've prepared for it. 1:20 p.m. 20 minutes into the battle. Miguel de Cervantes feels the real shudder. They've made contact. Not ramming. The galley has pulled alongside an Ottoman vessel. Grappling hooks fly. Connect. Pull the ships together. Now comes the part he's trained for. The part that makes his hands stop shaking and his mind go clear. Boarding. He climbs over the rail. 50 Spanish soldiers beside him. They land on the Ottoman deck and it's chaos. Janissaries waiting. Scimitars and axes. The Spanish have swords and arquebuses. For 5 seconds nobody moves, just stares. 2 groups of men realizing they're about to try to kill each other. Then someone screams and the killing starts. Cervantes fires his arquebus point blank into a Janissary's chest. The man goes down. There's no time to reload. He draws his sword. A Turkish soldier swings an axe. Cervantes blocks, barely. The impact numbs his left arm. He thrusts, misses. Someone behind him fires. The Turkish soldier drops. This is what naval warfare has always been. Hand to hand. Brutal. Personal. The kind of fighting where Ottoman janissaries excel. The finest close combat troops in the world. But here's the thing, Cervantes notices, even in the chaos, there are fewer janissaries than there should be. Because the Ottoman galley took 3 cannon hits from a galleass before the reel even got close. 20 janissaries died before the boarding started. The rest are fighting wounded, fighting tired, fighting in a vessel that's taking on water. The Spanish push forward, not easily, not without casualties. Cervantes sees friends die, sees men he trained with fall, but they push, and after 6 minutes of brutal fighting, the Ottoman crew breaks. Some jump overboard, some surrender, some fight to the death. The reel's crew has captured an Ottoman galley. It's one small victory in a battle involving 400 ships. But it's happening everywhere, all along the Christian line, because the galleasses created the conditions for it, broke the Ottoman formation, killed their momentum, forced them into boarding actions before they were ready. 1:40 p.m. Ali Pasha's Sultana is surrounded, not by enemy ships, by his own. Ottoman galleys clustering around the flagship. Seeking protection, seeking orders, the formation is gone. The crescent has collapsed. What should be a sweeping envelopment has become a confused melee in the center. "Reform the line!" Ali Pasha shouts, but his voice doesn't carry far enough. There's too much noise, too much chaos, drums still beating but out of sync, men screaming, guns firing, the sound of wooden hulls grinding against each other. Pertev Pasha is beside him, blood on his armor, not his blood. "Commander, we need to withdraw. Regroup." "Withdraw where?" Ali Pasha asks. It's a genuine question. The Ottoman fleet controls the eastern Gulf. Behind them is Lepanto harbor. They could retreat there, reform, try again. But retreat means admitting defeat, means sailing back to Constantinople and explaining to Sultan Selim how the invincible fleet lost to Christians, how 50 years of supremacy ended on a Sunday afternoon in October. Ali Pasha looks at the Christian flagship, the real, Don Juan of Austria's banner flying, gold and red. The young commander who has no business winning this battle. "We fight," Ali Pasha says. "Target the real. If we kill Don Juan, their fleet breaks. It's Ottoman doctrine. Kill the leader. The enemy collapses. It worked at Preveza, at Jerba. It should work now. But doctrine assumes your fleet is intact, assumes your formations hold, assumes the enemy fights the way you expect them to. The Christians aren't following the script. On the Christian left flank, Venetian commander Agostino Barbarigo is dying. An arrow through his eye. Ottoman archers from Uluk Ali's squadron. The Muslim corsair commanding the Ottoman left wing. The most skilled admiral in the Turkish fleet. He's doing what Mehmed tried and failed to do. He's getting behind the Christian line. Barbarigo's nephew, Marco, takes command. He's 26. This is his first major battle. His uncle is bleeding out on the deck beside him. 53 Venetian galleys are his responsibility now. And Uluk Ali's squadron, maybe 40 ships, is trying to envelop them. Marco makes a decision. Instead of holding the line, instead of fighting the way naval doctrine says to fight, he does something desperate. He signals his galleys to cluster, form a defensive circle, like wagon trains in the American West will do centuries later, like hoplites forming a phalanx. It's not elegant, it's not traditional, but it works. Uluk Ali's ships swarm around the Venetian cluster but can't break it, can't get inside where they can board and use their superior marines. The Venetians aren't winning, but they're not losing either. They're surviving, and survival is enough. 2 o'clock, 1 hour into the battle. The Ottoman fleet has lost 47 ships, sunk or captured. The Christian fleet has lost 4. The mathematics are brutal, undeniable. What should be a close battle is becoming a massacre. On the Sultana, Ali Pasha finally understands. This isn't about courage or skill or even numbers anymore. It's about something more fundamental. The Christians changed the rules. They brought weapons that make Ottoman tactics obsolete. They studied Ottoman patterns and prepared counters. They innovated while the Ottomans relied on tradition. 50 years of victory taught the wrong lessons, taught that the old ways work, taught that Ottoman methods are superior. The water around the Sultana is turning red. Venetian galleys are closing in. Spanish galleys too. They're targeting the flagship deliberately, trying to kill Ali Pasha, using his own doctrine against him. He grips his sword, looks at Pertev Pasha. When they board, he says quietly, "We fight to the last man." Pertev nods. There's nothing else to say. The reel is 400 yards away. Closing. The first hour is over. Ottoman Orthodoxy is dead. What comes next is just the mathematics of collapse. 2:07 p.m. The reel's ram strikes the Sultana's port side at 11 knots. The sound is wood screaming. The impact throws men to the deck on both ships. Don Juan stumbles but catches himself on the rail. Across 20 feet of water now churning white, he sees Ali Pasha. Eye contact. Two commanders, one battle. One of them will not leave this ship alive. Neither speaks. There's nothing to say. Grappling hooks fly from both sides simultaneously. Spanish soldiers throw them. Ottoman Marines throw them. The lines pull taut. The ships grind together, locked. What happens next will determine the battle's center. If the Sultana falls, the Ottoman fleet breaks. If the reel falls, Christian morale shatters. Everyone knows this. On both decks, men prepare to die. The Sultana carries 400 Marines, Janissaries mostly, elite troops, men who fought from Vienna to Yemen. They wear mail and helmets. They carry scimitars and composite bows and a confidence built on decades of Ottoman victories. The reel carries 300 soldiers, Spanish tercios, German landsknechts, Italian condottieri. They wear plate armor and carry arquebuses and swords and the desperation of men who know they're losing a war. We're losing. Past tense. Because right now, in this moment, they're winning. The first wave crashes together in the space between ships. Spaniards trying to board, Janissaries defending. Men packed so tight they can barely swing weapons. It's not a battle. It's a crush. A compression of violence into a space too small to contain it. A Spanish soldier named Diego Urbina is the first onto the Sultana's deck. He lasts 8 seconds. An axe takes him in the neck. He falls backward into the water between ships. His body disappears into the gap where hulls grind. The second Spaniard lasts longer. 12 seconds. Sword through the chest. The third makes it 15 feet before a Janissary commander cuts him down. This is how it goes for the first 5 minutes. Spanish soldiers boarding. Ottoman Marines killing them. The deck of the Sultana stays Ottoman. Bodies pile in the gap between ships. Some Spanish, some Turkish. Most just bleeding masses that used to be men. Don Juan watches from the reel. He's not supposed to board. Supreme Commander doesn't lead charges, but his hands grip the rail so tight his knuckles are white. Every man who dies trying to take that ship dies on his orders. We're not breaking through, Requesens says beside him, voice flat, stating fact. The Janissaries are too good, too experienced. This is what they do. But then something changes. 2:18 p.m. A Venetian galley called the St. Mark rams the Sultana from starboard. Different angle. Unexpected. The Sultana is now caught between two ships. Spanish soldiers on port, Venetian on starboard. Ottoman Marines have to split their defense. The mathematics shift. Sebastiano Venier leads the Venetian boarding party himself. 65 years old. Venetian patrician. He's supposed to command from a distance. Instead, he's climbing over the rail with an axe in one hand and decades of rage in the other. Rage at Preveza, at Jerba, at every Ottoman victory that took Venetian ships and Venetian sailors and Venetian pride. Today, he wants it back. The Venetians hit the starboard side like a wave, not disciplined Spanish infantry. Wild Venetian sailors who've fought Ottomans their entire lives, who know Turkish tactics because they've lost to them so many times, who are sick of losing. The Janissaries try to hold. They're good, professional, but they're fighting two boarding parties now. And the galleass bombardment earlier killed 60 of their number before the melee even started. They're already depleted, already tired. The Spanish sense the shift, push harder on the port side. Men who were defending are now attacking. The momentum tips. Ali Pasha sees it happening, sees his Marines being compressed from both sides, sees the deck of his flagship slowly filling with Spanish and Venetian soldiers. He draws his sword, a beautiful weapon, Damascus steel, inlaid with gold, a gift from the Sultan. "With me," he shouts to his personal guard, 20 men, his last reserve. They charge into the center of the fighting. Ali Pasha is not young, 47, but he's fought his whole life. He kills the first Spaniard he meets, cuts the man's sword arm off with a single strike. The second Spaniard he wounds badly enough to drop. The third, a Venetian soldier named Lazzaro Mocenigo, sees the Ottoman admiral fighting, recognizes him from the ornate armor, from the way men cluster around him. Mocenigo is nobody special, son of a rope maker, pressed into service 3 months ago. He's never killed anyone before today. He raises his arquebus, aims at Ali Pasha's chest, 30 feet away. Too far for accuracy. He fires anyway. The ball takes Ali Pasha in the shoulder, spins him. He doesn't fall, tries to stay standing. His guard clusters around him, forms a shield wall, tries to protect their commander. But the Spanish and Venetians smell blood. They push harder. The Ottoman defense compresses, becomes a circle, then a half circle, then just a cluster of men fighting back to back while the enemy surrounds them. Ali Pasha is still fighting, wounded but upright. His sword work is precise even now, professional. But there are too many enemies, and his guard is dying, one by one, cut down, overwhelmed. A Spanish soldier breaks through, thrusts his sword into Ali Pasha's chest. The Ottoman admiral staggers. Another Spaniard strikes. Then a Venetian. Then everyone is stabbing the man who commanded the Ottoman Mediterranean fleet. Ali Pasha falls. The effect is instant. The remaining Janissaries see their commander go down. Some fight on, most don't. They drop weapons, surrender, or try to escape over the sides. The Sultana is lost. Spanish soldiers cut down the Ottoman banner, the green flag with Quranic verses, the symbol of imperial power. They throw it into the water, raise the Holy League standard in its place, Christian banners flying from the Ottoman flagship. The surrounding Ottoman galleys see it, see their admiral's ship captured, see the banners change. Morale is mathematics too. Confidence minus certainty equals collapse. The Sultana's fall equals certainty that the battle is lost. Ships begin to pull away. Not retreating exactly, just separating, breaking formation. The crescent is completely gone now. What's left is 300 individual Ottoman vessels trying to decide whether to fight or flee. Most choose flee. 2:38 p.m. On the Christian left flank, Uluk Ali watches the Sultana fall. He's the only Ottoman commander still winning. His squadron has broken past Marco Barbarigo's Venetian cluster, has captured 3 Christian galleys, is doing what Ottoman tactics are supposed to do. But tactics don't matter when strategy collapses. He can win his section of the battle and still lose everything. Because the center is gone. Ali Pasha is dead. The fleet is disintegrating. Uluk Ali is a realist, a corsair who became an admiral through pragmatism rather than ideology. He looks at the situation, calculates, decides. He signals his squadron. Retreat. Not toward Lepanto harbor where the rest of the Ottoman fleet is fleeing. North. Toward open water. Toward escape. He's abandoning the battle but saving his ships. 30 vessels that will survive to fight another day. It's the smartest decision any Ottoman commander makes all afternoon. 2:45 p.m. Don Juan stands on the Sultana's deck. Ottoman blood under his boots. Ali Pasha's body at his feet. Around him, the Battle of Lepanto is still raging. But it's not a battle anymore. It's a hunt. Christian galleys chasing Ottoman ships, boarding them, capturing them, sinking those that won't surrender. The killing hour is ending. What comes next is just arithmetic. counting ships, counting bodies, counting the cost of what happens when naval supremacy changes hands in a single afternoon. Miguel de Cervantes is on the Sultana now. Helping secure prisoners, his left hand hurts. Badly. A Turkish scimitar caught him during the boarding, cut tendons. He'll never have full use of it again. But right now, high on survival and victory, he doesn't care. He looks around at the captured flagship, at the ornate carvings, the Ottoman grandeur, the symbol of everything Christian Europe feared. Now it's a prize. Now it belongs to Spain. He thinks, this is what winning feels like. After so many years of losing, this is what it feels like to beat the Ottomans at sea. It feels like blood and smoke and exhausted triumph. 3 o'clock. The Gulf of Patras becomes a killing ground. Ottoman galleys scatter in every direction. Some toward Lepanto harbor, some toward the Curzalari Islands, some just away. Direction doesn't matter. Only distance matters. Distance from the Christian ships now hunting them like wolves after broken prey. A galley called the Star of Alexandria tries to reach the shallows near shore. Thinks shallow water will protect it. A Spanish galley follows, rams it from behind. The Star's stern collapses. Water floods in. The crew abandons ship, swims for shore. Some make it. Most don't. Armor is heavy. Saltwater doesn't care about your survival. Another Ottoman vessel, name unknown, tries to surrender. White flag raised. Christian sailors boarded anyway. Not for capture, for revenge. They kill everyone. Crew, Marines, officers. Then set the ship on fire and watch it burn. There are no rules now, no mercy now. This is what happens when decades of Ottoman superiority reverse in 4 hours. The losing side pays compound interest on every previous victory. On the real, Don Juan tries to impose order, signals his fleet to accept surrenders, to take prisoners according to civilized warfare. Some captains listen, most don't. They've spent too many years losing, spent too many years watching friends die in Ottoman prisons, spent too many years as the underdog. Today they're not the underdog. Today they're the hammer, and they swing it without restraint. 3:20 p.m. Below deck on a captured Ottoman galley, something unexpected happens. The Christian boarding party breaks open the rowing benches. They're looking for cargo, for treasure, for anything valuable. Instead, they find 200 men in chains, galley slaves, the human engines that power Mediterranean warfare. Most are Christian, Spanish, Italian, some Greek, captured in previous battles, enslaved, chained to rowing benches, fed barely enough to survive, beaten when the rhythm slows. This is their life. This has been their life for months, years, some for decades. A Venetian sailor named Paolo sees them, sees the chains, sees the sores where shackles cut into ankles, sees men who look like skeletons. He doesn't hesitate, grabs a hammer, starts breaking chains. "What are you doing?" an officer asks. "Those are prisoners. We can sell them?" Paolo keeps hammering. "These are Christians. We're freeing them." It happens on ship after ship. Captured Ottoman galleys opened, thousands of Christian slaves freed. Some can barely stand, some cry, some just sit there, unable to believe it's real. That the chains are actually broken, that they're no longer property. Some of them pick up weapons, ask to fight. These are men who've endured hell, who've watched friends die beside them on rowing benches, who've dreamed of revenge every night for years. Today, they get it. They join the Christian crews, board other Ottoman ships, fight with a fury that terrifies even the Spanish soldiers. Because this isn't about religion or politics or empire for them. This is personal. This is payback. This is years of torture and humiliation finding release. The freed slaves tip the mathematics further. The Ottoman fleet isn't just losing. It's being destroyed by men who used to power their own ships. 3:50 p.m. In Lepanto harbor, 47 Ottoman galleys cluster. Captains arguing. Some want to sail out and rejoin the battle. Some want to stay protected. Some want to run. Nobody can agree. There's no command structure anymore. Ali Pasha is dead. The fleet hierarchy collapsed with the Sultana. They watch from the harbor entrance. Watch the Christian fleet move through the wreckage. Watch Ottoman ships burn. Watch the mathematics of annihilation play out in real time. One captain makes a decision, cuts his anchor, sails his galley deeper into the harbor, up a shallow channel where larger Christian ships can't follow. Beaches it, sets it on fire himself. If he can't keep his ship, the Christians won't have it either. Others follow his example. 40 Ottoman galleys deliberately burned or scuttled by their own crews. Better destroyed than captured, better gone than used against the empire. The fires burn all afternoon, smoke visible for miles. A signal to everyone watching. The Ottoman Mediterranean fleet is dying. 4:15 p.m. Uluç Ali's squadron is gone. 30 ships escaped, sailing north. The only Ottoman vessels to leave the battle intact. The only commander with anything resembling victory to report. He abandoned his allies. Saved himself. Pragmatism over honor. In Constantinople, Sultan Selim will reward him anyway, because 30 ships saved is better than 300 ships lost. Because pragmatism, in the end, matters more than honor. Because Uluç Ali will rebuild what Ali Pasha destroyed. But that's future. That's politics. That's the long mathematics of empire. Right now, in the Gulf of Patras, the mathematics are simpler. The Ottoman fleet numbered approximately 270 vessels this morning. By 4:30 p.m., 117 are captured. 53 are sunk. 60 are burned or scuttled by their own crews. 30 escaped with Uluç Ali. 10 Ottoman galleys survived by pure luck. Wrong position. Escaped in confusion. Limped away while the Christians were busy with easier targets. 10 ships out of 270. The Christian fleet lost 17 vessels all day. 4 hours of the most intense naval warfare in Mediterranean history. 17 losses. The numbers don't balance. Can't balance. This isn't a battle. This is erasure. This is what happens when supremacy dies and nobody on the losing side can process it fast enough to adapt. 4:45 p.m. The killing stops. Not because anyone orders it. It just ends. There are no more Ottoman ships to chase. No more enemies to fight. Just wreckage. Just water turning from red to dark as the sun drops. Christian crews collapse. Exhausted. Some wounded. Some in shock. Some unable to believe what they've done, what they've witnessed. 4 hours ago, they were the underdog. Now they're masters of the Mediterranean. On the real, Don Juan receives casualty reports. 8,000 Christian dead or wounded. He does math in his head. 8,000 out of 60,000 is acceptable. Painful, but acceptable. The Ottoman casualties are still being counted. Will be counted for days. 20,000 dead at minimum. Maybe 30,000, plus 15,000 captured, plus all the slaves freed. The numbers are so large they become abstract, stop meaning anything. Don Juan looks east, toward Lepanto, toward Constantinople beyond, toward an empire that woke up this morning invincible and goes to sleep tonight broken. He should feel triumphant. He feels empty. Victory, he's learning, doesn't feel the way poets describe it. It just feels like exhausted survival. The numbers tell a story. 117 Ottoman galleys captured, 53 sunk, 60 destroyed by their own crews, 30 escaped, 10 survived by accident. Out of 270 vessels, the Ottoman fleet retained 40 ships, 85% losses in 4 hours. Approximately 30,000 Ottoman sailors and soldiers dead or captured. The elite Janissary Corps decimated. Naval officers with decades of experience gone. The institutional knowledge of Mediterranean naval supremacy drowned in the Gulf of Patras. The Holy League lost 17 ships, 8,000 men, a ratio of loss that military historians will study for centuries, trying to understand how dominance reverses this completely, this quickly. But here's the paradox that Captain Marco Corini understands as he searches the wreckage field at sunset. None of it matters. Cyprus is still Ottoman. Fell 2 months ago. 60,000 Christians dead or enslaved. The battle the Holy League gathered to prevent, already lost before Lepanto was fought. The strategic objective failed before the tactical victory happened. Within 6 months, the Ottoman Empire will rebuild its Mediterranean fleet. New galleys, new crews, new admirals. The Sultan has unlimited resources, unlimited manpower. One catastrophic defeat doesn't break an empire that stretches from Budapest to Baghdad. Within 2 years, Venice will sign a separate peace with Constantinople, abandon the Holy League, trade access for security. Because Venice is a merchant republic and merchants understand mathematics. Understand that tactical victories don't balance ledgers. That glory doesn't pay for ships. Within 5 years, the Mediterranean will return to the same strategic stalemate that existed before Lepanto. Ottoman control of the east, Spanish control of the west. An invisible line neither side can permanently cross. The greatest naval victory in Christian Europe's history changes almost nothing. Almost. Because there's another kind of mathematics. The mathematics of belief. For 50 years, the Ottoman fleet was invincible. That belief shaped policy, shaped strategy, shaped how both sides approached Mediterranean warfare. After Lepanto, the belief is broken. The Ottomans can be beaten at sea, not through luck or surprise, but through superior tactics and technology and willingness to innovate. That knowledge is permanent, can't be unlearned, can't be rebuilt like galleys. And there's one more number. 15,000 Christian slaves freed. Men who thought they'd die chained to rowing benches. Men who went home, who told stories, who proved that Ottoman supremacy wasn't destiny, wasn't inevitable, was just temporary superiority that could end on any given Sunday in October. Querini watches the sun set over the wreckage. Tomorrow they'll continue searching, counting, salvaging what can be salvaged. Recording what happened here for the historians who will argue about its significance for centuries. But right now, in this moment, the only mathematics that matter are simple. 4 hours ago, the Mediterranean belonged to the Ottoman Empire. 4 hours later, it belonged to no one. The age of galley warfare is ending. What comes next? Sailing ships with broadside guns, naval warfare at distance, new tactics for new technologies is beginning. Lepanto is the last great battle of the old way, the first hint of the new way, a pivot point disguised as a victory. History doesn't care about the irony, but Querini does. He marks the position of the Sultana's wreckage one final time, turns his galley west, toward home, toward a future that looks nothing like the past 4 hours proved possible. The mathematics of belief have changed. Everything else is just details. The Ottoman fleet rebuilt within months. But something else happened at Lepanto, something the numbers don't capture. The psychology of invincibility died in 4 hours. And psychology, unlike galleys, can't be rebuilt in a shipyard. If you want to understand how other invincible forces collapsed from the Spanish Armada to the Maginot Line, you'll find those stories here. Valor and violence doesn't just tell you what happened. We show you why supremacy is always temporary. Why every empire's greatest weakness is believing in its own myth. The next story is already waiting, and it's not what you expect.